Okay, let's talk about that one part of the SAT math test that just fills everyone with dread, the word problem. But what if I told you that you could actually turn that dreaded section into your biggest strength? Well, over the next few minutes, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to demystify these things for good.
In this quote right here, it gets to the absolute heart of it. The problem isn't the math itself, it's the costume it's wearing. So our whole mission here is to learn how to unmask these problems and reveal the simple, totally familiar algebra that's hiding just underneath.
So, here is the #1 secret you have to understand. The SAT math section, it's not really a test of your reading comprehension. Not at all. It's testing one very specific skill, your ability to translate plain English into the language of math.
And you know what? Once you rip off that costume, this is what you're going to find. It's almost always one of these 5 basic math concepts that, hey, you already know how to solve. The story is just fancy wrapping paper for a simple linear equation or a basic ratio problem. All right, before we get into any tactics, we have to start right here. Your mindset is honestly the most powerful tool you have. The entire game is about shifting from that feeling of panic when you see a wall of text to a real position of power.
And this is the golden rule. You got to let this sink in. Your job is not to invent some complicated formula out of thin air. No way. Your job is to be a detective, to simply translate the puzzle from English into algebra. The equation is already there. It's just waiting for you to find it.
This lays out the game perfectly, doesn't it? The SAT's job is to wrap the math up in a story, hide the numbers, and try to distract you. Your job is to just calmly cut through all that noise, pull out the important pieces, and translate them. See, if you get lost in the story, you lose. But if you focus on translating, you win. Every time. Look, you can't just wing these problems. You need a system. This 4-step method right here is your non-negotiable master key. You're going to use it for every single word problem, and it will turn a confusing paragraph into a clear, simple path forward.
Okay, let's walk through this. Now pay close attention to what comes first. Before you even think about doing any math, you absolutely must define your variables. So if a problem's about a rental car, your first move is to just write down C equals cost per day, F equals the flat fee. I'm telling you, this one step alone will prevent so many mistakes.
Step 2 is all about spotting the SAT's favorite words. They use these super predictable keywords to signal what you need to do. Now, you got to pay special attention to less than. They love to write something like 5 less than a number because they're hoping you'll write 5 minus x. But you're smarter than that. You know it's x minus 5. They are literally banking on you being careless with that translation.
Okay, so you've done it. You followed the steps, you translated the problem, you wrote the equation, you solved for x, and you see your answer right there in the options. You're feeling great. But hold on, don't circle it yet. There is one last absolutely brutal trap the SAT has laid for you.
And here it is, man, this gets so many students. You brilliantly solve for C, the cost per day, and you get $40. But the question actually asked for F, the flat fee. You did all the hard work right, but then you fell into that final trap. So please, always, always reread the very last line of the question after you solve.
Now, the really cool thing is, after you practice just a few problems with this method, you're going to start to notice the same villains showing up in different costumes. They're actually pretty easy to beat once you recognize their moves. First up, the classic age problem. It looks tricky, but it's just a system of equations with a time shift. The key is to remember that when time passes, it passes for everybody. So if the problem says, in 5 years, you have to add 5 to both people's ages, just like you see here. That's it. That is the whole trick.
Next up are distance problems. Your anchor is always that simple formula. Distance equals rate times time. The common SAT twist is to split a journey into 2 parts, like driving in the city and then getting on the highway. Just set up the formula for each leg of the trip and then build your equation from there.
And finally, we have work problems. The pattern here is to think about everything in terms of rates. So if a machine can do a job in 6 hours, its rate is 1/6 of the job per hour. You just find the individual rates for each person or machine, and you guessed it, you just add them together. Master that one concept, and these become free points.
To finish up, let's arm you against the SAT's last-ditch efforts to mess with you. Think of this as the final level of the game. If you can just memorize these common traps, you'll see them coming a mile away and calmly step right around them. Now, these traps aren't about difficult math. They're tests of your attention to detail.
They'll throw an extra, totally useless information just to confuse you, or they'll mix up units like hours and minutes. The SAT isn't trying to see if you're a genius, it's just testing if you're paying close attention.
And hey, never forget this. If the algebra gets messy or you're running out of time, you have a superpower. This is a multiple choice test. You can work backward. Just start plugging the answer choices back into the problem and see which one fits. It is a completely valid and awesome strategy.
So, after all this, what's the big takeaway? Well, your role on test day has changed. You are not a mathematician struggling with a story. You're something much more methodical, much more powerful. And this is the ultimate bottom line. Success on these problems isn't about being a math genius. The most important skill, by a long shot, is being a calm translator. It's about ignoring the story fluff, defining your variables, and just methodically converting English into algebra.
Because that is all a word problem ever is. It looks scary, it reads long, but underneath it all, it is just algebra in cosplay. And now, you have the system and the mindset to unmask it every single time.